and girls, welcome to another broadcast of the Lawrence Report. Tonight's broadcast, we will be discussing the new movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, this movie has a bunch of A-listers from Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese, and Lily Gladstone. This movie is based off true life events that happened in the 1920s when the Osage people faced numerous vicious attacks, all because of the oil that was on their land. In fact, it was actually a string of murders. Many have known this to be the Reign of Terror. Now, this was a 3.5 hour movie. I also should mention that this movie was based on David Grant's book that he wrote back in 2017. But even though this was a 3.5 hour movie, it honestly didn't feel like it. I felt like it's going to pull you in emotionally, and it's going to make you think as well. With this movie right here, it was a lot of heart and soul, I think, by Lily Gladstone. To me, she was, without a doubt, the star of this movie right here. And Robert De Niro and Leo, with their two characters, they pulled off incredible performances as well. But for me, it was all about Lily Gladstone. Can you imagine, somebody pretending that they love you only to basically, at the end of the day, their goal is to hurt and harm you, right? We see Robert De Niro's character immediately, he sees an opportunity for him. His character, he's known as, the big king of the Osage people. Basically, he's kind of like, I want to say, like a town leader, back in Oklahoma during the 1920s. So he was very influential, not only among, the white people, but among the Osage people as well. But, he sees a golden opportunity when it comes to these head rights, which is basically the oil rights, in order for outsiders, white men, basically, in order for them to, to help secure the rights and get the rights, they had to inherit the rights, right? You had to basically marry someone of the Osage ethnicity. So we see Robert De Niro's character, William, he encourages his nephew, Ernest, to marry Lily Gladstone's character, who was named Molly, right? So, while they're doing that at the same time, it's evil behind the scenes. The big town manager, Robert De Niro's character, he sees a golden opportunity and he does it. But unfortunately, while they're doing this right here, it's a lot of greed that is in stake. It's a lot of power. It comes with a lot of racism. Of course, back in the day, I mean, even now, money is still the root of all things evil, and we see that's clearly one of the biggest issues in this film right here. I just couldn't imagine, faking it, all for money. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what this movie reminded me about. It was just about the power, the greed, that what you can do. Like how can we become wealthy, and this just comes, this is jealousy. At the end of the day, you're jealous of a certain race of people that have been there for a long time, and you see the opportunity to take advantage of them. This kind of there was, before I say this, there was kind of like a scene in the movie where one of Molly's family members' houses got bombed or whatever, right? And I remember vividly hearing, a woman say, "Oh my God, this is like Tulsa, like the Tulsa massacre that, affected people that look like me, even now in 2023, with the Black Lives Matter movement, and even with, civil rights, there was always sheep in wolves' clothing. What I'm saying is, it's people who have pretended to be allies, kind of like Robert De Niro's character, William, in this movie. He pretended to be an ally of the Osage people, but his main goal was to manipulate, control, steal, and crave the power. And like I said, we saw that in civil rights the civil rights movement back in the day. We saw that, seen that now, even with the Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter movement that we have that's going on right now. Um, when it comes to greed, but for me, you know, this movie was very emotional. I think about Lily Gladstone's character Molly. She married a man who she thought she could trust, um, thought she could love, only to find out that this same man was doing everything he can to poison her. He was also helping. It was Ernest, who was Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and Robert De Niro's character, William. They both was doing what they can to poison the Osage people. But also at the same time, there's a lot of murders that was going on. I think it was over 60 plus murders, and I really believe it was more than 60 throughout that time, because these men were jealous of what these Native Americans owned. They was jealous of the oil, because the oil, as we all know, oil is big money, right? So that can lead to much bigger things down the road. And like I said, there was so many people that, many of the Osage people, they died of mysterious illnesses. Many of them was found shot and dead. And this movie was kind of gory. It was bloody. If you're not necessarily into history, this may not be the movie for a casual movie fan. But for me, I've always loved history personally. So I knew of the Osage people, but I had to go back and read some more, because one of the things I do love reading, and whenever I do hear about an epic like this right here that Robert Scorsese directed, I wanted to get some more information about this right here. So yeah, overall, it was a good movie. It's just, my heart goes out to Lily Gladstone character Molly. You trust somebody to love you, to take care of you, only to find out that there's evil brewing inside them, and the evil is to take over. That means killing off your sister, killing off your mother, in which they did that in real life, and they showed in the movie, killing off your sister. And it's just sad. It's sad because in the movie we see that he ultimately he poisoned her, right? We find out in the movie that she's dealing with diabetes and things of that nature. So he uses that as a crutch to figure out a way, how can I get her to submit to my will so that I can take over? And that's exactly what he did. He used the diabetes thing as a opportunity to take over. But yes, my heart goes out to the Osage people. It was a very emotional movie. There are some scenes where I did have to turn away, because ultimately this thing was, at the end of the day, it's about race, power, greed, corruption. And for these men, for these these white settlers, they was gonna do everything in their power that they can do. It wasn't until that the in Washington D.C. they sent some people down to investigate this string of murders, to see what is going on, like. And when they found out information, eventually we did find out that William and Ernest, they both pretty much got sent to jail, and they both were found guilty of their crimes of trying to steal this oil and these head rights from these Native Americans, these Osage people, and they did end up going to jail. Like I said earlier, this is true life, but at the same time, we unfortunately we see this happening even in today's time. So again, we have to be aware of our surroundings. We have to be careful about people that we call friends, because sometimes we don't know if they are sheep in wolves clothing. For me, this was one of Martin Scorsese's best films. Been a fan of his work for quite some time. Of course, we all love Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro. He's been doing his thing forever. But you know, overall, I would give this movie right here about a roughly from me probably about 8.5. You know, 8.5, decent good movie. It really didn't need to be 3.5 hours long. I feel like they could have wrapped it up honestly, 2.5 at the latest. 2.5 at the latest. I would love to see this told through the Osage people's lenses, like through their vision, through their eyes. I would love to see that right there. I hope we can, you know, eventually get something like that down the road, you know, um, from their lens, from their point of view. But overall, pretty good movie. Didn't need to be 3.5. Real life story. And again, like I said, if you love history, if you consider yourself to be a historian, you know, this would be the ideal movie for you. It kept me on my toes. At the same time, like I said, very emotional movie. But overall, very good. Just dealing with a lot of things that we face today, such as, you know, race and people that are pretending to be allies, right? But at the end of the day, they have one goal, and that's the greed and the power. And they're going to do anything and everything, including murder, unfortunately, to get the greed and the power that they are looking for in this lifetime. But yeah, so overall, great movie, good movie for me. Um, if you like what you saw today, feel free to hit that subscribe button, like, share, and comment. And as always, thank you for tuning in to the Lawrence Report.